धूमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांता स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम्।
Hare Krishna, Sukirti Madhavi.
Amrin Gordas,
Welcoming you for this Gita Mastery course. And here is the quiz based on the last session. So we are sharing the poll in the window. We would like you to read the questions carefully and mark the correct answers. Here it goes on your screens. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Question number 1. How many factors are involved in the accomplishment of any action? And the correct answer is 5.
And many of you have got it right. Next question to Durmati in chapter 18 refers to 1. And the right answer is the first option, does not be the Supreme Lord. So there are 5 factors of accomplishment of any action. And Durmati is one who just considers himself and especially does not accept Supreme Lord as one of the doers.
Question number 3 is asking that who is not bound by his actions? And the correct answer is third one whose intelligence is not entangled. So if my intelligence is not entangled, then I'm not bound by my action.
Question 4. What are the 3 aspects involved in performing the action? Of course, it is the activity, the senses, and the doer.
Next question. Getting attached to one type of work as all in all is the knowledge in the mode of ignorance. Ignorance is the correct answer.
Question 6. Action performed with great effort to gratify his desires is in the mode of passion, and I think most of you got it right.
Worker in the mode of ignorance is greedy, envious, and impure, and the correct answer is false because a worker in mode of passion has these qualities.
So some questions are tricky questions. We have to be a little careful. Next question. Person in the mode of cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, and definitely this person is in passion, because that the person in goodness can differentiate between dharma and adharma, religion and irreligion. Person in passion, he's not able to differentiate.
He's confused.
He is confused. This we discussed in the previous session. And the person in ignorance, he is firmly convinced that irreligion is religion, that adharma is actual dharma. So for the last question, the correct answer is passion. Sometimes we know and sometimes we learn from our mistakes.
So we will proceed further in this session, and before we proceed further, I would like to inform, I am sure all of you would have received the message that today is Bhadra Purnima, and this particular day, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, 13th chapter, 13th verse, it's mentioned that how important and significant it is to donate a set of Srimad Bhagavatam on this day. So we would like to thank some of you. Ranjit Kumar, he sponsored 2 set of Bhagavatam. Then Tushar, Natesan, Reshma, Santoshi Rani, and Radhe. So we are very grateful and thankful to all of you for sponsoring Bhagavatam set. And on your behalf, we would be distributing these Bhagavatam set to those devotees who want to read Bhagavatam, but they cannot afford it. So thank you for your contribution. And the date is not yet over. So still, in case if you want to donate, so today's day is the thing. So you can actually get in touch with us through our WhatsApp number, and the devotee will guide you as how you can do that. So in the last section, we were discussing about the modes and how the modes control all the aspects of life. So we will begin our session today from 18th chapter, verse number 33. Dhrityaya dharayate mana pranendriya kriyaha yogena vyabhicharanya dhritihi sa partha satviki. O son of Pritha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and which thus controls the activities of the mind, life, and senses, is determination in the mode of goodness. So now here Krishna is explaining to Arjuna the determination in 3 categories, that is goodness, in passion, and in ignorance. So here we are beginning with the determination in mode of goodness, and as we can see that by this determination one can actually he can control the activities of his mind, because mind is the most agitating and irritating, and it keeps asking for so many things. So a person is so determined that he can actually control his mind, his life, and all his senses. So everything is under his control. Whatever he decides, he does that, and he understands God, and he is fixed in the service of God. So with this non-deviation or undeviated mind, he completely absorbs himself in service of the Lord. So such person is in mode of has determination in mode of goodness.
So what we need to understand here is that his determination is steadfast, it is unbreakable, and the cause of that is his continuous, consistent yoga practice. So he's consistently, he understands the Lord, and his senses are fixed in his service. He's not deviated other than the service of the Lord. And that is what creates a very strong, unbreakable determination. So the cause is his yoga practice or meditation on the Supreme Lord or Lord's service.
Yaya tu dharma kamarthan dhritya dharayate Arjuna prasangena phalakankshi dhriti sa partha rajasi.
So as we can see, now we are discussing in the 34th verse the determination of a person who is in rajas. Dhritihi sa partha rajasi. So a person in mode of passion, what kind of determination does he have? So Krishna says, but that determination by which one holds fast to fruitive results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is of the nature of passion, O Arjuna. So now this person, he is very, very determined to perform what? Dharma, Artha, Kama. He is very determined, which means if you notice this person, he is very hardworking. He wants to follow Dharma so that he can obtain Artha, or he can obtain economic development or means for sense enjoyment. And once he has attained it, he will engage in enjoyment, sense gratification. He will do that. So he is driven by that desire to enjoy the fruits, and that is what you see is underlined in the third line, Fal Akankshi. So he has desire to enjoy that fruit. So he knows if I follow Dharma, I'll get the Artha and then I can enjoy the fruit. So this is what creates determination in a person in mode of passion.
Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam vishadam madameva cha na vimunchati durmedha dhritihi sa partha tamasi. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming. What is written in the first line? Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam. So swapnam, dream-like state. So his determination cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion. Such unintelligent determination, O son of Pritha, is in the mode of darkness. So basically this person has no determination. He keeps oversleeping, he dreams, and that to that only his determination is limited. So such a person comes in mode of ignorance. So here is the summary of these three verses. Determination in different modes. In mode of goodness, such strong, unbreakable determination sustained by yoga practice. So what do we mean by yoga practice? Establishing my connection with the Supreme Lord. So actually the determination is derived with the connection with the Supreme Lord, and that is how we can control the activities of mind, life, and senses.
Whereas the determination of a person in passion, he's greatly attached, Phala Kankshi, to the fruitive results, and therefore he, with determination, he performs religion and economic development as a result and enjoys his senses.
And the determination of one in ignorance cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion. So basically there is no determination because he's very fearful of the outcome, and whatever has happened, he keeps lamenting about the past, and overall he stays in an illusory state of existence, and that is why there is hardly any determination. Avyabhicharanya indicates that persons who are engaged in Krishna consciousness are never deviated by any other activity. So we talk about mind control and how we can actually control our mind, bring focus in our life, and achieve things in our life. So all that arises for those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness, who are not deviated or distracted by any other activity.
And we have a picture of Srila Prabhupada, and if we observe his life, many of us know about that he went to the West and he started iskcon movement and he established so many temples all over the 6 continents, and we are all wow. And of course, it had been a hard struggle for him, especially if we see the time when before he went to the West and he struggled in India. His business failed And then he was so determined because spiritual master had given him an instruction to print books, and so he was publishing a magazine, and he would personally go out and distribute those books, those magazines. And when we go through his life history, especially that period of struggle before he went to the West, and even after going there, then we can understand that just because he was fixed in his service to the Lord, he was fixed in the instructions given to him by his spiritual master, and that gave him immeasurable strength to continue facing all the very, very difficult odds that were in front of him. Sukham tva idanim trividham shrinu me bhartarshava abhyasad ramate yatra dukkhantam cha nigacchati. O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys, and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. So, one thing we need to understand, that why do we act in the first place? For what purpose? The purpose of any action is happiness. So now there are three kinds of happiness for which different people in different modes they endeavor. So let's look at them. Yattadagre vishameva pariname mritopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam.
That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. So the happiness which is derived through the mode of goodness at the initial stage, I may not get so much of happiness itself out of it. Like what Krishna is describing, that at the beginning it may appear like poison. It may be difficult, it may be challenging, but when we keep doing that activity, then the same activity starts giving us the best of joy and fulfillment of all our desires. So this, how does one person attain? By awakening to self-realization. So probably we can take some examples, like if somebody decides that, okay, from this time onwards, I will start Ekadashi Vrata. So initially, because we get a lot of questions whether I can eat this or not, mustard seed is allowed, this oil is allowed, that atta is allowed, what can I eat, how would I fast? It's very difficult. But then when we actually start doing it, and then that sense of service and surrender to Krishna, and the heart is full of such positive emotions, that ultimately we start feeling like at a nectarian place where we are just relishing the happiness. So though we are doing it for the pleasure of Krishna, but yet ultimately, because we are pleasing the Supreme Lord in the whole process, I also derive that happiness. So such things which at the beginning are difficult, but with practice we perfect them. So there are challenges in our devotional life and we start doing it, but then we continue doing that and it becomes like nectar. Chanting japa. Chanting japa is another thing, because when we start chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. For one round itself, we check our watches 2-3 times. Ki kitna bacha hai? It's not yet over. How much more round is left? But then when we come into this habit, like we have every morning 6 to 8 japa. So if we make it a habit and we join the japa session, then even if you forget to keep alarm, even if you are very tired the previous night, but automatically you get so much of inspiration from within that you want to chant the japa early in the morning. So this is how difficult in the beginning, but nectar at the end.
Yeah, and sometimes when people come in touch with devotees and they are told to chant japa, and early morning, waking up, and then so all these things sometimes, and after we give them prasadam, they become very happy, and then we tell them about the 4 relative principles. And they find it, what is this? Why are you telling me now? You should have told me in the beginning. I would not have taken this option itself.
How can I live without tea? I get headache.
Yeah. For some people, it's like that. So initially, because we are so much entrapped in the material energy, and we are so much entangled. So when we begin the process of untangling, then it is tastes like poison. So there are so many rules and regulations in the scriptures, like regulative principles and the positive process of bhakti. So initially it may be tough for some of us, it may be difficult. So therefore it may taste like visham, as in the first line. And but then later, if we continue to do that, then we understand that this is actual reality and actual what can actually give us happiness and bliss.
So goodness brings joy and destroys sorrow by practice. Poison in the beginning, nectar at end, arise from purity of intellect and awakens one to self-realization. So the activities which are actually taking us closer to Krishna. So the self-realization is very, very important. So beginning it may be difficult, as we were discussing, but later one comes to transcendental position where the person actually experiences the real nectar.
And actually, this is what happens. So initially, we we are told to chant japa,
Mangal Aarti
or Mangalarti. So gradually, what happens is when we gain some good knowledge, when we gain knowledge from scriptures, when we hear from devotees, and then our heart and our intelligence begins to starts becoming purified. And with that purity, we get even greater determination that even if it's difficult, I must do it. And then gradually the realization comes. And the realization comes of my own self. I'm not really this body. Realization comes of the Supreme Lord. And realization comes of that sweet relationship which I have with the Supreme Lord. When we read the pastimes of different devotees with the Lord, and that sweetness we taste, and then we ourselves hunger for such sweet relationship with the Lord.
Vishayendriya samyogad yattad agre mritopamam pariname vishameva tat sukham rajasam smritam.
That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their sense objects and which appears like nectar at first but poison at the end is said to be of the nature of passion. So what is happening is, the happiness that we derive by contacting a sense object. So my senses, the eyes look for a youthful, beautiful form. So when I see that form, then immediately, there is a sense of happiness. So if I feel happiness by seeing a youthful, beautiful form, which means my happiness is in the nature of passion. So this is not very difficult to understand. We can just imagine a young boy and a young girl, and they have attraction and attachment to each other. They look at and they say, and that's why probably it is said fall in love. You don't say rise in love, you say fall in love, So that attachment, attraction comes and they want to be with each other. They cannot stay away from each other. And in due course of time, hopefully if they get married,
or they give in,
whatever, and then, the real life starts. So then they realize there is something beyond what I have perceived over this person, whether the girl or the boy. They begin to see the other side of the person, and it is not always rosy. And, some of them, many of us who are married, we understand that life after marriage, there is so much of adjustment and there is so much of understanding which has to come in to continue this relationship. So initially it may appear like nectar, but then gradually there are challenges and there are difficulties. And even if everything is okay, there is a time which, comes and, there may be a lot of misunderstanding. Divorce may happen, separation may happen, or the death of the spouse may happen. So if the sense enjoyment comes by approaching the sense object, then it is mode of passion, nectar in the beginning, but poison at the end.
Actually, the same example what you were giving. So a boy and a girl, they come together, not attracted towards each other, but keeping Krishna in the center and starting a life together to serve the Supreme Lord. So the whole thing is different because Krishna comes there. So that is how, who is at the center, and that describes whether I'm deriving happiness in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. So in passion, we also can see like somebody who starts smoking. Right? So first time itself, friends may find it impressive and I feel good about it. I become the cool guy because I smoke. But then later, it becomes poisonous.
Yeah, definitely poison. Smoking is one of the biggest reasons for cardiovascular disease, for example. So this example was very good. What you said about a devotee boy and a devotee girl coming together, they have Krishna in the center. So, and if you look at this verse, 38th verse, which talks about goodness, happiness and mode of passion, who's in the center? The person. I am in the center because I see that object and I want to enjoy that object, and from that my happiness arises. So this happiness and mode of passion is for a person who's very selfish, and so therefore in the beginning it may appear to be nectar, but definitely turns up into poison at the end. So happiness and mode, passion, it arises from contact of senses with sense objects. So this is one very important point for which we can remember, because whenever we feel, wow, exciting, happiness, we need to assess what is giving me this happiness, what is the source of this happiness. So if it is the contact of sense with sense object, oh, this is passion, happiness and passion, and which means it later will give me trouble. So those, who are trained in the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, oh, they become expert in dealing with these things. So appears like nectar in the beginning, but becomes poison at the end.
Yadagre chanubandhane cha sukham mohanamatmanah
nidralasya pramadottam yattamasam udahritam.
And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. So here is a description of a person who gets happiness with in the mode of ignorance. So one very important thing is self-realization does not exist anywhere, like dur tak nahi. There is no scope of self-realization. This person does not know anything between, like, difference between body and soul. He believes he is this body. So that is the delusional state, and he wants to satisfy this delusional state through various means, like sometimes people who takes drugs or other substance abuse, or doing various types of crime. Like if we find some psychopath, some killer, what do you say, serial killer, where is his happiness coming from? I mean, that murder is giving him happiness. So that type of happiness, I mean, he's not killing because he's getting paid, he's killing because he enjoys that. So such type of activities, criminal activities, violent activities, which is done out of, like, a person is deriving some happiness out of it. So that is in mode of ignorance.
And someday that we don't want to get out of the bed, and someday if we just want to laze around and not really do anything worthy, and we feel, this is what a great day I had,
I got up at 12 noon.
Yeah, or even later. So that also, which means we are covered or we are influenced by mode of ignorance.
So ignorance, blind to self-realization, delusion from beginning to end. So this person is actually the person in mode of ignorance. We have discussed various aspects, and each and every aspect, basically this person is in complete illusion. And then this happiness arises from sleep, laziness, illusion, or intoxication. Natad asti pritvyam va divi deveshu va punaha Sattvam prakriti yad idhi syatribhir gunai.
There is no being existing either here, that is on earth, or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, which is freed from these three modes born of material nature. So Krishna, the Lord started saying, see, I have told you few things, but there are all the aspects of all the beings on this planet, higher planet, entire universe. So everyone within this universe is governed by these modes of material nature. There is no being which is freed from these three modes of material nature, born of material nature. So that is one thing which we need to understand. And that is one reason, I mean, if you just look at the application of this principle, that is one reason why we don't really worship devatas. Now, devatas are higher planetary systems, in the heavenly planets, and we don't worship them because they themselves are in mode. They are in mode of goodness. That's nice, but they're still in the modes. And therefore, we worship the Supreme Lord who is transcendental to the modes. And if we worship him or his devotees, then we actually can transcend the modes.
So moving forward, so we saw that how this particular chapter, chapter 18, is the concluding chapter, the perfection of renunciation. Krishna has actually, as we discussed, by the end of 17th chapter, Krishna has already completed the Bhagavad Gita. So now he is sort of summarizing different aspects which we have already discussed. So we have covered the freedom through Karma Yoga. So Krishna has spoken about Karma Yoga in the first section. Then he emphasized about the 5 factors. With verse number 40, he concludes the entire mode section. So we saw that in 2 chapters, Krishna has already discussed modes, and here again, he's talking about modes. And now moving forward, as you can see, verse number 41 to 48. Now here, Krishna is going to talk about the Varnashram system. So he's talking about purification through prescribed duties, because one may ask the question that if everyone in this material world is conditioned by the modes.
Just now Krishna said that.
Yeah. So how do I get out? Like, is it actually possible to get out of these modes? Or because Krishna is saying that everyone is like this, so I will continue like that. So now Krishna is beginning a new section where he's going to describe that Varnashram system. And in this Varnashram system, one acts according to his inherited modes of nature. But he does so in a very regulated way as a service to the Lord. So that mode itself would guide him, take him up higher and higher, so that ultimately he becomes liberated. So this is the section.
Yeah. So the it's a very simple understanding, irrespective of the fact that somebody is in goodness, somebody may be in passion and with some goodness, somebody may be in lot of passion with some ignorance, or somebody may be just in ignorance. So we may be situated in different modes, we are governed by different modes. That is okay. I can make progress if I follow the scriptural rules, if I follow the duty prescribed from me. So if I am in mode of passion, what is scripture telling me to do? Okay, scripture is telling that I should engage in this kind of activity. And while performing this activity, and after performing this activity, if I offer it to the Lord, then even if I'm in a lower mode and I'm performing activity according to that mode, but because I'm doing things prescribed by the scriptures and I'm offering it to the Lord, I can become freed from the influences of these modes by performing prescribed duty. So this is the point that Krishna is making here: purification through prescribed duties. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Visham, Sudranam cha parantapa, Karmani pravibhaktani, Swabhava prabhavair gunai.
Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material mode, O chastiser of the enemy. So Krishna has already discussed about these 4 classification or categorization, wherein he has mentioned that how he has divided this entire society based on the guna and karma. Guna karma vibhagashaha. Chaturvarnam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. So there Krishna has already introduced. Now the living entity who are in goodness, passion or ignorance, they actually, based on the degree of goodness or passion or ignorance, they fit into Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra. So let's see what Krishna describes here.
Shamodamastapa shaucham shantirarjavameva cha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam.
So here Krishna is describing the qualities which are natural to a person who is Brahminical. So now we are not talking about birth, keeping birth aside. Here we are discussing the natural quality of a person who's Brahminical. So what are these qualities? So first is shamo or peacefulness. So such a person has control of mind, and because of that, because the mind is not agitating this person, that is why he attains this peaceful state. So mind is categorized as inner sense organ. So if a person has control, that inner sense control is there, then he becomes peaceful. The second is damas or self-control. So self-control in the sense of external senses. So my senses, my eyes, my skin, my tongue, my ear, my nose, they demand certain things. They keep forcing me I want this, and the next thing, and the next thing. So when I control those senses, so a Brahman has a great deal of self control because his life is governed by higher principles. So he does not give in to the dictations of the senses.
Yeah,
The third is
it becomes very easy for him. He knows what is allowed and what is not allowed. Like you're talking about Ekadashi. So on Ekadashi, a devotee has no inclination to eat
Yes.
grain. So he
Yes.
knows that this is not allowed by the scriptures. So naturally, he has a self-control over his senses.
Then third is tapa or austerity. So austerity, as Krishna has already described, and we have heard, austerity of body, austerity of mind, and austerity of speech. So that austerity is tapa. Shaucham is cleanliness or purity. So this person, Brahmanical person, is the purest of all the others. So they purify themselves externally and internally. Externally by taking bath, by maintaining certain minimum standards of cleanliness, and internally by chanting certain mantras. Most important is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Then the next quality of Brahman is Kshantir. So this person is very peaceful because he's very tolerant. So this whole tolerance comes because he understands that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And then all the other living entities are connected with Krishna. So one, the position of Krishna is clear to him. Second, the position of living entities is clear to him. Third, he understands and believes that whatever is happening is Krishna's perfect arrangement. So then whatever happens to him, he just accepts is as Krishna's master plan, and he goes along with that. So that is why he exhibits the highest degree of tolerance. Then the next one is arjavam or honesty. So honesty means no duplicity. Whatever is there inside is outside. There is no public image and private image. He always maintains that even if nobody is watching, still he is doing what he is expected to do. So that is how one person is honest. Like for example, when we are driving at nights and we reach at the zebra crossing and there is this red light, I'm expected to stop, and I turn around and see, okay, police is not there, no traffic police, no traffic, and no cameras, so let me just go ahead. So what is happening is I'm not being honest. So honesty means no duplicity if somebody is watching or not watching. Then the next is Jnanam and Vijnanam. So knowledge and wisdom which arise by the understanding of scriptures. So knowledge is the theoretical knowledge, and Jnanam is the theoretical knowledge, and Vijnan is the practical application. So such a person is actually living these scriptures, not only taking classes on the scriptures, but actually living those principles. And then Astikyam, or accept the Vedic principles as truth. He has absolute faith in Vedas and religiousness. So these are the natural qualities by which the Brahmana works. So now natural qualities means this is not his acquired behavior. This is his natural behavior. So these are the qualities.
So, because nowadays what happens, somebody takes birth in a Brahmin family and he claims the status of a Brahmana. So from this we understand that he must display these qualities to claim the title. Actually, they will not even claim. Brahmana will just be so humble. So 9 qualities of Brahmana. So all these qualities show a predominance of mode of goodness in the person, that he is peaceful, that he has so much of self-control. So the peaceful because his mind is under control, self-control because his external senses are under his control. He knows according to scriptures where engage his senses and where not to do that. Austerity is also, he knows what austerity is prescribed in the scriptures, that therefore I should do. So the devotees don't fast just on any day or any told. So the scriptures prescribe you should fast on Ekadashi, you should fast on Lord's appearance day, and we also fast on days of the devotees' appearance and disappearance. So these are austerities prescribed by the scriptures, and the devotee happily performs these austerities. And purity, both internal and external, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. So he believes in the word of the Vedas. He understands that is the absolute truth. So just by looking at these qualities, we would immediately feel, yeah, this is actually mode of goodness, and this is just so amazing. Shauryam tejo dhritir daksham yuddhe chapi apalayanam danam ishwara bhavascha shatram karma swabhavajam. So here we come to the qualities of a Kshatriya. And what are these qualities? Heroism, Shauryam. So we see that, when we have 26th January in India, we have Republic Day, and the martyrs, the soldiers who have fallen in the line of duty, they are awarded medals. So heroism, Shaurya Chakra, there is one of the medals which is given is called Shaurya Chakra or heroism. So this is a natural quality of a Kshatriya. Not everybody actually has this, and we can, so many of us who are listening to this, we know that some of us may look forward to going on to the battlefield and fighting there, and many of us would be very uncomfortable doing that. Next is Tejo, or the power. Dhritar, he's greatly determined even in the face of great odds and some activity which requires so much of force in these senses, so much of engagement of senses, and still he continues performing them with determination. So that is a person, he's a Kshatriya. Dakshyam, he's expert at getting things done, resourcefulness, very resourceful. And then we have Yuddhe Chapi Apalayanam. So he shows great courage in battle. He never runs away from battle. He knows that in this battle I would die. And he would die in that battle, but he will not turn around and let the bullet hit his back, or, somebody shot in the back. So that doesn't happen with Kshatriya. Danam, he is very generous. He doesn't consider that what is left for me. This is an amazing quality of a Kshatriya. He doesn't think what is left with me or for me. He just gives Danam.
Recently we celebrated Onam. Bali Maharaj.
Bali Maharaj, amazing example. We have a very amazing lecture on Bali Maharaj and Vaman Dev. So if you find time, you can check it out on YouTube. It is amazing. Before actually Bali Maharaj gave the vow, he knew that this is Lord Vishnu and there is a possibility that nothing may be left for me and everything may be taken away from him. And still he took that, he performed that Danam. So amazing. And of course, Lord was so pleased with him. And this devotee has become so great that even after millions of years, we are hearing about him. Then another quality of a Kshatriya is Ishvara Bhavam, which means he naturally has Ishwar Bhav, or the tendency to control. He's a natural leader. So these are the natural qualities of a Kshatriya. So these are the 7 qualities: heroism, power, determination, very resourceful. He has great courage in battle, very generous, and a born leader. So predominance, this shows predominance in mode of passion. So Kshatriya means he has, of course, predominance of passion, and secondary, second mode influence is mode of goodness. So if you look at, for example, generosity, right? So this shows, it shows influence of mode of goodness as well. But the main is passion, secondary quality is goodness. Krishi Gorakshya Vanijyam Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam Paricharyatmakam Karma Sudrashyapi Swabhavajam.
So now Krishna is talking about Vaishya and Shudra. So for Vaishya, he is describing Krishi, Go, Rakshya, Vanijyam. So 3 things: Krishi or farming, Go Rakshya or cow protection, and Vanijyam or business. So people who come into one of these 3 categories, they are actually Vaishya community, and that is their natural work. And for the Shudras, there are labor and service to other. So that comes very naturally to the Shudra. So 3 qualities of a Vaishya. Now farming, cow protection, and business. So in Vaishya, we see that there is this predominance mode of passion, and the secondary mode is ignorance. Little ignorance is there, and prominently it is passion. Whereas in the Shudra, predominance of mode of ignorance with passion as secondary mode.
So this is very natural for them. now we need to understand that when we discuss Varnashram system, people misunderstand it as caste system. This is not caste system. You see that people in this material world are in different modes. They are governed by different modes. They are influenced by different modes. So what Lord has done is that if you are influenced by mode of goodness, well, Brahminical work is meant for you. If you are predominant mode of passion and you have some goodness, then the duties of a Kshatriya are meant for you. And if you are governed by mode of ignorance predominantly and you may have little rajas, then the duties or the activities of Shudra are for you. So it is not that somebody is of a higher caste or a lower caste. It depends on what modes am I governed by and what is the right activity for me. So this is how Lord has explained these qualities, and this is how he has created Varnashram system. Another amazing thing you will see is that we may, Krishna explains Varnashram, we have caste system in India, but if you look at any part of the globe, any community, any society, you'll find these 4 divisions. All these 4 divisions exist, whether they know it consciously or they don't know. Swe swe karmani abhirataha samsiddhim labate naraha swakarma niratah siddhim yatha vindati shrunu.
By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now, please hear from me how this can be done. So, now Krishna is telling that each one of us, we have a natural inclination or a natural behavior. So, he is not telling that Brahman is superior to the other thing. He is not saying that, or even if we feel that that is superior, we should not jump and start doing that work. What I'm supposed to do is what comes naturally to me, and just by doing what naturally comes to me, I can perfect my life. So now Krishna is going to explain that.
Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana tam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. This is a beautiful conclusion of this entire section. So what we need to understand is that I am governed by certain modes or a mix of modes, and therefore there are certain duties which I should perform. Now, somebody may say that Shudra, the work prescribed for Shudra is to service to the other Varnas, he should serve others. So somebody may say, oh, that's why that has to be done. But then that is the right thing to be done because of the modes which he is in. So Lord is saying, if a person in mode of ignorance, he just renders service to the others, one who's mode of goodness or is in passion, if he gives service to them, and at the same time, what does he do? He worships the Lord. And he is in knowledge. He knows that the Lord is in his source of all beings. He is all pervading. So we need to understand, like in 7th chapter, Krishna explains that everything in this material world is manifested by his external energy. He says there are gross elements, there are subtle elements, and then he says beyond that is my superior spiritual energy, the living entity. And there is nothing else in this material world. So we understand that, he's source of all beings, then we understand that he's all pervading. And then Lord himself is in the material world as Paramatma. And knowing that we worship the Supreme Lord, so irrespective whether I am doing a Shudra activity or a Vaishya activity or a Kshatriya activity or a Brahmanical work, if I offer my activities to the Supreme Lord, because these activities are prescribed to me because of my modes, I offer them to the Lord, I worship to the Lord. It doesn't matter which Varna or ashram I'm in and my activity. So I can perfect myself. So everyone can become perfect. This is the beauty of Krishna's system. By performing his particular duties, the prayer of this person is, Lord, may you be satisfied by my work. So even if I broom the road Every day after I broom the road, I pray to the Lord, Lord, please you be satisfied with my service or with my work. And that helps me progress in my spiritual life. So nothing has to be changed. Just this element of gratitude and worship is added. So worshipping the Supreme Lord, who is all pervading and is source of everything.
Perform your duty to render service unto him. Senses to be engaged in service of Rishikesh, the master of the senses. And that's how one attains perfection.
Shreyan swadharmo viguna paradharmat swanushtitat svabhavaniyatam karma kurvan apnoti kilbisham.
Now, this is a very important verse because what Krishna is telling, it is better to engage in one's own occupation even though one may perform it imperfectly. Vigunaha. So, even if it is performed imperfectly, yet one should perform swa anushtitat or one's own occupation than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reaction. So, if I'm just performing my natural duties, then I do not incur sinful reaction. So, Krishna is actually telling Arjun here that, look, Arjun, you are talking about becoming a sannyasi and going and begging, but that is not your job profile. That would not match your personality. That is not your duty. Your duty is, as a kshatriya, you have to fight. We just now described the characteristic of a kshatriya. So that is where Arjuna fits in. So he is taking the battle and he has to ensure that it reaches till the end. So even if Arjun feels that how can I kill my own kinsman, there is some problem with this particular duty. Yet Krishna is telling, even if you feel that you can perform others' duties properly, you feel that being a beggar is better for you, yet continue with your duty. And that would lead you to perfection. So no work is bad or low class if done as a service to Lord. So Krishna is telling, do it as a service to me. This is what you are expected to do. And this holds true for all of us. So whichever ashrama, whichever place we are situated in, we are expected to do whatever occupational duty is, whatever our dharmic duty is, for the pleasure of Krishna. So stick to one's prescribed duties, perform your duty even though imperfectly, rather than doing others' duty perfectly. And if a person continues doing like that, then he is not affected by the sinful reaction. So no work is abominable if performed in the service of the Supreme Lord.
Just like Arjuna, decide to work only to serve the supreme cause of the Supreme Lord. So if you decide that Lord has this desire, he wants to, get this thing done, and I act as an instrument, that is perfection. Sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham api natyajit sarvarambha hi doshena dhumenagnir ivavritaha. Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of faults. So, every endeavor is covered by some fault. So, it's very simple. It is not that a Brahmana or a Brahmanical work, which is in mode of goodness, has no faults. It also has some faults. Why? Because it is mode of goodness. It is material mode. It is not perfect. It is not spiritual. It is not completely transcendental. Still, it has some material fault. So, whether it is the activity, it is mentioned endeavor. So, any endeavor, even in mode of goodness, may have fault. In mode of passion, a Kshatriya, his duties is having faults. Of violence, the Kshatriya has to be violent at times required. And then Vaishya, to propagate his business and all, he may have to tell lies. Or the Kshatriya, for example, he not just violent, sometimes he has to be, have some diplomacy, in his dealings with other kings. And Kshatriya, as I was discussing, that he may,
Vaishya may be dishonest.
Yeah, maybe dishonest. He may, cheat little bit here and there. So that's okay. It is part of his profile. So every endeavor is covered with some fault, like fire is covered by smoke. So smoke is actually part of fire only. But when the smoke goes away, then the fire gives the heat with which the cold goes away. So this is what Krishna is explaining, that even if your prescribed duty may appear to have some faults, you continue doing that. Why? We saw Krishna gave two reasons. One, you offer that duty, that work to me. Krishna, you be please satisfied with me. And second, because the modes which I am in, based on this I am doing this activity, and I am doing this activity based on the scripture, so I will not incur sin. So if Arjuna is standing on the battlefield, he's facing his spiritual master, his gurus, he's facing his grandfather, he's facing, we saw in first chapter, he was saying, equals to my fathers, grandfathers, my sons, everybody standing, my whole family there. So even if Arjuna standing there kills all of them, because he is following the duty of a Kshatriya, he will not be overcome by sin. So Arjuna had that question, if I kill them, if I kill my family members, I will be overcome by sin. So Krishna is saying, no, it doesn't work that way. So perform your duty. So one must stick to his occupational duty at any cost, even if one's own duty appears difficult or defective. So here we have this huge fire covered by smoke. Still we need to continue burning it, I guess.
Till the time the smoke clears up.
Yeah. So we become purified by that.
Irrespective of the Varna, one can become perfect if the result of work are connected with devotional service. So with this, we would end this session and we will proceed further in the next session, and 3 more sessions to go to complete the intense, in-depth study of Bhagavad Gita. Hope it is helping you. So looking forward to see all of you next week. And today we have some guests, so we would not be able to continue with the question and answer session. But Q&A link we are posting. So in case if you have any doubt, please send your question there and our team would be happy to help you out.
And we'll definitely be connecting next week. So if there are more questions, we can of course take them up next week. So thank you for joining. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhagavad Gita as it is, ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.